I'm about to tell you about one of the most insane laws I've ever heard of. Picture this. It's 1965 in Italy, and if a man rapes a woman, he could get away with it by marrying her. I'm not making this up. It was a real law called the rehabilitating-marriage. The crime would literally be erased. The man who attacked her would walk free just because he agreed to marry her. And the craziest part? Society demanded it. Women who refused were branded as outcasts, their dignity erased by custom. The system protected power, not justice. But everything changed when a 17-year-old girl found the courage to stand up. Calm, unbroken, and unafraid. What she did next didn't just alter her own life. It awakened an entire nation and rewrote history forever. Just imagine, what if the law itself told you to marry the very person who had wronged you in the name of honor? Would you accept or fight the entire system? They called her a disgrace, a dishonor. The law demanded her silence, but she refused to stay quiet. What followed shook her country's conscience forever. But this 17-year-old girl did something no one had ever done. She said no. Franca Viola didn't just win a case, she rewrote a nation's conscience. One no shattered centuries of silence and forced a country to confront its own injustice. Before we uncover the extraordinary courage of this young Italian girl, hit that subscribe button for fearless legal stories from the KanoonPlus team, where one voice can still change the law. This story starts in a tiny Sicilian town with a girl named Franca Viola. Born in 1948, her life revolved around family honor. At just 15, she was engaged to Filippo Melodia, nephew of a local mafia boss who acted like he ruled the world. Then Melodia got arrested for theft. Franca's dad said no way and canceled the engagement. Melodia left town, and for a while it seemed the nightmare was over. By 1965, Franca was engaged again, this time to someone she actually loved. But then, Melodia came back. Furious that Franca had moved on, he began a campaign of fear. He stalked her, threatened her family, and destroyed their vineyard and barn in rage. In one chilling moment, he even confronted her father face to face. But even then, her father stood firm, calm, and unafraid. In December 1965, a shocking event unfolded in the small Sicilian town of Alcamo, one that would soon change Italian law forever. Filippo Melodia, enraged by rejection, invaded the Viola household with a group of men and took Franca away despite her family's desperate efforts to protect her. She was kept in isolation for 8 long days, pressured under an outdated social code that sought to silence her will. His motive was to force a marriage that, under the law at that time, could erase accountability. A loophole that would soon face its reckoning in court. After 8 days, Franca was finally freed, but the system tried to silence her all over again. Melodia offered what the old law called a rehabilitating marriage, under Article 544, a loophole that could erase everything he'd done. His family approached hers to make it official, and everyone expected her to say yes and simply move on. But inside the Viola home, history took a turn. Her father, Bernardo, asked gently, "What do you want to do?" And when Franca said no, he answered, "Then I'll stand by you, whatever it takes." Together, they did the unthinkable. They pressed charges. Franca publicly refused to marry her rapist, rejecting not just a man, but an entire culture of silence. The backlash was brutal. Their family was ostracized, their home attacked, their names defamed. Franca was labeled a shameless woman. But then, in the courtroom, she said something that would echo forever. "I am not anyone's property. No one can force me to love a person I don't respect. Honor is lost by those who commit certain acts, not by those who suffer them." That single statement flipped centuries of thinking. She put shame where it belonged. The trial became a national showdown. It wasn't just a case. It was a moral reckoning for all of Italy. Melodia's lawyers tried to twist the story, claiming Franca had gone with him willingly, turning truth into theater. But Franca and her father stood firm, unshaken. Their courage exposed just how broken and unjust the old law truly was. And then, in May 1967, the verdict came. Guilty. Melodia was sentenced to 11 years in prison, later reduced to 10. But his defeat had already rewritten history. It was a historic first. The old notion of honor could no longer protect wrongdoing. Melodia was released from prison in 1976, but never returned to Sicily. And his story ended abruptly 2 years later. Franca Viola didn't just win a case, she changed the conscience of a nation. One no echoed through generations, breaking centuries of silence. So tell me, was Franca right to defy her country's law? Or did she simply remind it what justice truly means? If you believe courage can change history, like, share, and hype this video. Subscribe to KanoonPlus, where every no that changed the law becomes a story the world remembers. She never set out to be a hero. She simply did what her heart told her was right. In doing so, she taught Italy and the world that honor isn't given by others, it's claimed by yourself. Franca Viola's defiance didn't just rewrite Italy's laws, it reshaped humanity's understanding of dignity and justice. On September 5, 1981, Italy finally abolished the rehabilitating-marriage law, and in 1996, it reclassified rape as a crime against the person, not against morality. Franca became a quiet legend, never chasing fame, just living freely in the town that once judged her. Her story became a global symbol for women's courage, inspiring countries like Morocco, Jordan, and Lebanon, which only repealed similar laws decades later. In contrast, India's legal conscience recognized the gravity of sexual violence long before the British codified law. Even in ancient texts like the Manusmriti, strict penalties existed for sexual assault, reflecting early awareness of bodily autonomy and moral accountability. By the time the Indian Penal Code of 1860 was enacted, these ideas had evolved into a modern system. Section 375 treated rape as a violation of consent, not family honor, and those principles live on today under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Section 63, where consent, dignity, and justice remain paramount. In a world where some nations once allowed marriage to erase violence, India's consistent legal stance reflects a deep moral maturity, the belief that no tradition, no law, and no marriage can ever justify the theft of a woman's agency. So, what happened to the young woman who took on the law and won? In 1968, Franca Viola married Giuseppe Ruisi, the man who had loved and supported her all along. Their marriage symbolized not shame, but rebirth. Even the president of Italy sent a wedding gift, and they met the Pope himself. Franca Viola's story proves that one person's courage can challenge an entire system. She didn't just win a case, she rewrote a nation's conscience. What do you think? Was Franca right to defy her country's law? Or did she simply remind it what justice really means? If you believe honor belongs to the victim, not the perpetrator, share this story. Help us amplify voices that change the law through courage. Subscribe, share, and hype this video. Because at KanoonPlus, every no that shook the system becomes a story the world remembers.
Friends, don't forget to share your views in the comment box and subscribe to KanoonPlus channel.